Hi guys, and welcome back to another video Game with the Powers. I'm Jake. In today's video, I'll be doing an overview and giving you my first impressions of the board game Fromage, coming to you from R2i Games. Now, Fromage is a board game all about making cheese and aging cheese and things like that, and then showing these different cheeses off in bistros, in villas, in festivals, and then having them displayed in Fromagerie as well. So it's a board game with 4 different mini games-esque within it, and it's actually a really cool design mechanically. So let's go ahead and jump down to the table where I'll give an overview of the game and then back up here to talk about my first impressions. All right guys, so we are down here at the table where we would have something set up for a 2-player game of Fromage. Now I do want to note that this is the limited edition of the game, so there are certain components or things that you might see here today that are not in the regular edition or the retail edition of Fromage. So let's talk about the game in general. The overall premise of the game is you are going to be making cheese, and you have 4 different districts here: a bistro, villas, a festival, and fromagerie, where you are going to be making these different cheeses. And what's unique about this game is within each of these different districts, they are each going to have their own different scoring conditions. So that's where I said there are kind of like 4 different mini games within the actual game of Fromage itself. So you will have a player board here with 15 different cheeses in your player color. You will also have 3 workers in your player color with their own separate cheeses: a soft, a hard, and a blue cheese. Okay, and over the course of the game, you are going to be placing these cheeses out in the different districts to make cheese and create, or oh man, I can't even think of the word that I'm looking for, to fulfill the scoring conditions in each of these different districts. So let's talk about how this is actually going to work. So let me zoom in a little bit on the board, and we are going to take a closer look at some of these particular different districts. And I'm gonna move the board up here, and we are gonna focus on the bistro. So you will see in the bistro, there's all different types of colors first. So as I mentioned, there are 3 different types of cheeses you'll be making in the game. We have a hard cheese, a blue cheese, and a soft cheese. So that's the first thing that you want to take into account when you are planning on making cheeses. The second thing is, within each district, you'll see bronze, silver, and gold. Okay, these are how long it's going to take to age this specific cheese, and in the game it goes in months. So bronze cheeses will take you 1 month, silver cheeses will take you 2 months, and gold cheeses will take you 3 months. And then of course, obviously, the bronze, silver, and gold cheeses, depending on what you create, will score you more particular points. So you can see here the gold will have 4, 5, 6, 9, silver 2, 3, 4, 6, bronze 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then in terms of these different scoring conditions, I'll go over each district scoring conditions here in kind of a sec. But the way it's going to work is, on your turn, you have 2 things that you can do. The first is going to be making a cheese. So let's say I want to create this bronze cheese right here. Simply what I would do is take my cheese, drop it in the slot, and then I would need to take my worker and I would need to slot him in with the direction the cheese is facing. And you'll notice these cheeses are facing all different directions. So what's going to happen throughout the course of the game is this board is going to rotate something like this. And when it is the start of your turn, if any of your workers are facing you, wherever you are sitting on your player board, then you will be allowed to collect that worker back. So for example, let's say I started my turn, but you see my worker is facing to the right and I'm facing this way. I would not be able to collect this worker. I would have to wait till the board rotates. So you see the board rotates, boom, boom, and now my worker is facing me. Obviously, guys, it would be like this, but you can see he's off camera, so work with me here. But this worker would now be facing me, so on my turn, I would get to collect this worker. The cheese will stay in its spot for endgame scoring, and now I would be able to use this guy again. So that is the first option. The first thing you can do on your turn is to create a cheese. And like I said, obviously your gold or your bronze cheeses, one rotation of the board, they will be facing you and you can collect them. The silver is going to take 2 rotations of this Lazy Susan, and the gold cheeses are going to take 3 rotations of the Lazy Susan in order for you to get your workers back. So that's the first thing you can do on your turn. The second thing here is you can collect resources. So there are 4 types of resources in the game. You have order cards. So work order cheeses, which I'll go over in just a second here. We have warehouses, we have animals, and then we have berries. So each player will have their own particular player board, and this is where these other resources come in. So some cheeses you might make will require you to add fruit to the cheese or jam. You can make a jam from that. As you can see in the example here, this would be required a fruit that needs cheese. This is a fruit that a cheese you can turn into a jam. And so whenever you do that, you just take your resources here in the basket and you move them over in such. And then at the end of the game, this will be some end game scoring. With your animals, okay, you have a barn here, and you can spend the required amount of animals to age another cheese for free on your turn. So if I spent 2, I could age another bronze blue cheese. So I could just take one of my markers here, drop it in this particular section here, and that is a way for me to end the game quicker. This does not require a worker if you were to do that. So you have the different numbers that you can pay. And then last but not least, you have these warehouses or storage houses, okay? You'll notice at the top of my player board, I have different actions as well, or maybe some bonuses. When you collect these warehouses, you can put them in the particular spaces, and once they are full up, this particular power is now available to me. So whenever I were to gain an animal, I would also gain an additional animal. Okay, you could do any of these that you would like. So those are the 3 resources you will use on your player board. The last one is going to be the orders. So you can see here, this needs to be a hard cheese that is aged 1 month. So for example, if I was here and placed my worker here, whenever the board rotated just like this, and I were to take this worker back, I have now fulfilled this particular order on the board, and I would keep this card for endgame scoring at the end of the game, and depending on how many orders I fulfilled is how much I will score. Okay, guys, well, look, that is really all of Fromage the game. You are taking 2 actions on your turn. Either make a cheese or put a worker in the resources. I should probably actually talk about how that works. So when you would like to collect resources, you will take your worker here and put them in either the 1, 2, or 3 slots. So let's say I put them in the 2 slots. You would then take those resources. So I would get 2 order cards. And then as usual, I would have to wait for the board to turn all the way around until my particular worker faces me again, and then I would be able to collect him. So that is gaining resources. We have seen make a cheese, and those are the only 2 things you're doing on your turn. So let me just real quick, I want to talk about the 4 different districts here and what each of them the mini game is. So in the festival here, this is going to be adjacent cheeses. So for every cheese that you have adjacent to one, you will gain a bonus. So there are particular free spaces. So all these spaces right here are free. So, you know, if I had this example here, I have 2 that are adjacent to each other, I would score 2 points for this. This is 3 adjacent to each other, so this would give me 4 points. So adjacency is the name of the game here. Okay, moving on to the villas. This one is area control, okay? So you will see these different cheeses along these different colors. And so whoever has the most cheeses in a given area will be able to collect these worker tokens. And then depending on how many of these worker tokens you get, you will be able to score those as well. Let me just make sure we are good to go. Okay, the camera looked a little fuzzy. All right, so that is the villas. The bistro is all about creating pairs. So you want to have pairs in a given table. Once you've been able to do that, then for every cheese that you have made on a particular table, even if you do not have a pair, you would score points. So since I have one pair in this example, every bronze would give me 1, every silver would give me 3, every gold would give me 5. And then the last one is the fromagerie. You are putting cheeses on display here. And when you create a cheese, and I believe it's when you get your worker back, let me double check for the fromagerie. If a sign shows a resource bonus, immediately gain the bonus, okay? So when I put a cheese here, I would be able to gain these particular bonuses. So for example, I'll be able to gain 3 victory points at the end of the game when we did end game scoring. That is the name of the game here. So you're just putting cheeses on display. Okay, guys, well, look, that is Fromage in an entirety of how to play the game as a whole. Let's go ahead and jump back up top and talk about my first impressions. All right, guys, well, look, I must say I was thoroughly impressed with Fromage. Fromage is an excellent game and it does so many things really well. I think the biggest thing for me is it takes that old school Euro style feel of a game and basically packages it into a 45 to 60 minute playthrough, which is so cool because I do really enjoy Euro style games, that classic worker placement type feel, resource management. I love those games so much, but most of those Euro games are 90 to 120 plus minutes, and they can really take its toll. Fromage does a really great job of giving you that feeling of worker placement, old school Euro, like the artwork, everything just is classic, a classic feeling in a very small package, and it is amazing, okay? The second thing I really enjoyed is just the simplicity of the game as well. Look, guys, this thing was super easy to get set up. This thing was super easy. I mean, it maybe took me about 5 to 10 minutes to really get through this rule book here and understand the game. And then me and Sierra were off and running. And I just love how it's super simple. There's 2 things you could do on your turn: make a cheese or gather resources with your workers. That's it. Now, there's other things you can do in between that with powers and stuff like that. But I mean, those are your actions that you're taking, and then you're just flipping the lazy Susan around, twirling it until you get your workers back and you are continuing. So the game is so simple, easy to teach, very board game friendly here. And last thing I gotta say, I love the mechanics of this game. It is so unique having 4 different districts, 4 different ways to score: area majority, adjacency. You want to get things in pairs, and so it's so strategic with where I have to wait a certain amount of turns to be able to get my workers back, and it just pairs so nicely with the overall theme of making cheeses. I love the little mechanic, the gimmick really of the lazy Susan, where we're scooting it around the board. That has a phenomenal feeling as well. A lot of great things from me and Sierra in terms of Fromage. We were really impressed and thoroughly enjoyed getting this one to the table. This is going to have a high rating for us. We don't need to get this to the table anymore to know that this is an excellent game. But all right, guys, well, look, that's an overview of Fromage. Those are my first impressions and opinions of getting this one to the table. Really enjoyed it. Go ahead, if you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, drop down in the comments below. I know this is starting to fulfill at this current moment. Have you guys played this yet? Have you backed it? What do you think about it? What are your opinions on that? Drop it down in the comments below for me. And as always, guys, if you are not subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe so we can keep bringing you some more awesome content. All right, guys, you'll have a great one. Bye.